I'm going to tell you my favorite story from the evidence-based treatment literature. Part of this is also a story about what is therapy anyway, and does therapy need specific ingredients to work, or does therapy just happen in a therapeutic context with a therapist? In order to test this, some researchers developed a treatment for trauma. And really, for a while, researchers thought that to treat trauma, you needed exposure as a specific ingredient to treat the traumatic symptoms. This was based off of a number of different theories, including emotional processing theory. So it was thought that the scientific approach to treating trauma would be providing exposure treatments. And that would include things like exposure therapy, narrative therapy, even EMDR has some exposure treatments. And we think of all these as evidence-based therapies. But in order to figure out whether exposure was a necessary ingredient to treat trauma, researchers came up with a sort of sham treatment called present-centered therapy. In this therapy, people would be redirected to the present rather than encouraged to think more about the trauma. And people can't really do exposure for a trauma if they're not even talking about the trauma. Researchers knew that in order to become an effective treatment, treatments have to do a few things. You have to convince the therapist delivering the treatment that the treatment is real, and you have to convince the clients that the treatment is real. So you need a rationale for something. And researchers developed a rationale for present-centered therapy about the importance of redirecting your attention to the present, and they convinced some therapists that this was going to be an effective treatment. And then they put them in a research study where they were providing this treatment to clients, and the clients got better from their trauma symptoms. Present-centered therapy is an evidence-based treatment for trauma. But what does this mean about therapy? Well, one of the things that it means is that really what we need for therapy to be effective is that the therapist needs to believe in the treatment that they're delivering, and the client needs to believe in the treatment that's being delivered. I actually think this has a lot of implications for how we practice as clinicians and how we choose therapists. I mean, it makes us pay a lot less attention to an evidence-based treatment. We can develop a treatment that's initially thought this will probably be a sham or placebo treatment, and then that placebo or sham treatment turns out to be an evidence-based treatment. I'll provide links in this video so you can look up some of this stuff yourself. But I initially heard of this story from The Great Psychotherapy Debate by Bruce Wampold. This is a book that really changed the way I thought about therapy, and that's a big deal when I've been practicing as a therapist for so long. Take care.